Okay, so good morning. This is Simon with TRADEnPERFORM Coaching. It's 8:05 a.m. on the 28th of October. So a couple of things before we get started. First of all, we're still in trend up, right? So we started on Sunday night. Let's look at the profile real quick. And you will see, if you look at the profile, that we gapped, we've run, and we've continued running. I thought the run would be about 700 points, 3% from where we closed, which was roughly, if you look at the Friday close, this shows it at 20, roughly 25, 254. That goes back to 1023. And hold on one second here. So I don't know if there's someone speaking or why we just started jumping. That's not in my pay grade per se, but we are definitely running. There's no question about it. So just keep that in mind. If you look, we so we gapped. We closed down a little bit yesterday. Oh, excuse me, I'm off a bit. 27th, 28th. I apologize. We gapped on Friday. We gapped yesterday. This was the close on Friday. It was 20, basically 25. I thought we'd tack on 700 points, which would be roughly 3%. And so if you look at that 3%, that would be 700 points from 25.5, puts us at 26,200. And that's where I think we'll probably end up, at least for the short term. That's a guess, right? There's no science or anything uh, based on that, right? That's just, okay, that's the science that I have, and that's what I'm guessing that will end up being the result of of the China deal, right? The reason I feel like that, so someone said to me yesterday, I just want to discuss this for a second, right? Someone said, well, you don't know that it's going to go up, right? You couldn't have known. And I said, that's true. I couldn't know that it would go up, except you have nothing bearish sticks, right? So I'm going to say this again. Nothing bearish sticks, right? And everything that it's red is bullish, right? Every dip gets bought. Nothing sticks to the downside. Number one. Number two, China has been the biggest mover of is there something wrong with the market, right? That's been the biggest net result of of hey, is something going wrong? Like, oh, the China deal is not going to go through. Every time the market has tanked, it's been based on the China thing, right? So when that element goes down, when that element goes away, right, and that's the only element that drives us lower substantially, you're going to have traders who are banking on that concept, right? You're going to have traders that are banking on that concept, saying no, the market's going to go lower, right? So they position, and not everyone, just because you're a day trader, positions like that. They position for swings, they buy puts, they sell calls. They have an entire infrastructure based on what their belief system is, right? So some people were saying, just some, were saying, no, that's going to be the end of everything, and we're going to go lower. And if that's your belief point, and if the belief point was because China, right? If you're noting and going because of China, that's going to be our black swan, right? Then you have to go reverse that position, right? You have to go reverse that position and cover, right? So for me, the next element that needed to go down was that we needed to gap and go, right? And I wrote, if you look on Twitter, right? I don't remember if I put this in the room, but I'm pretty sure I posted this in the room too. But if you look on Twitter, I came in and I went and found facts, right? I just didn't base it off of what I think. I went and found facts. I found that using facts makes it a lot easier to lead people. It makes it a lot easier for me to make good decisions, right? So if I use facts, I wrote, okay, if you look at when I posted this, it should say 10:58 a.m. on October 26th. That was Sunday. And I said, this is an example of what you want your Sunday night gap to look like. This was 511.25. And if you look, we gapped, and this actually holds its first 5-minute low, right? And I wrote on the stream, I'm pretty sure I put it in the room, but maybe I didn't, right? Pretty sure I put it in the room because, again, I want to build it based on facts, not what I want. I said, if you're playing the gap and go trade in NQ tonight, this is exactly what you want the price action to look like. On Sunday night, 10-2, after the initial run at the open, there are plenty of pullbacks to enter long positions, okay? And then I wrote, I want the 5-minute low and then, so this is, well, I won't out who this is, but this is a member in the room. I said, I think it's gap and go, but I can be comfortable being wrong about it. Best scenario is we hold the 5-minute low, the open, and that makes the long side easy, right? And that's exactly what we got. I won't go through and do it inch by inch, right? So I had a plan, right? I had a plan. Was it a good plan? I don't know. The plan worked out. It doesn't mean that it was a good plan. But what I thought would happen happened, and what I needed, but what I hinged, a lot of people in this room, right, have a belief system. Okay, they believe something's going to happen for some reason. Doesn't matter what the reason is. I believe this, therefore I think this is going to happen, right? Where they fail is they don't take what they believe is going to happen and then tie it to, and if I'm right, this is what it'll look like. Scenario, for me to have conviction or to stay with my trade idea, this is what must happen. I must see these pieces of structure get developed so that I can work against my belief system, and the two have to merge. And that's what we had go on Sunday night into Monday, right? And that's a good thing, right? Because now you know how to do it. So for today, right, if you look at it, first of all, we haven't closed either of these gaps from here to here or here to here. So what someone would say is if we close this gap or we close this gap, that's bullish. It's just a retest of the bullish breakout to the upside. And so the inverse of that is true too, right? So what you want is context around what we're doing, right? So if closing this gap is bullish and closing this gap is bullish, then closing below that gap and below the low of the day that generated the bullish gap breakaways is bearish. So now you have a mini structure to work off of. Below 24,960 and holding, you can probably get a pretty significant sell to the downside, and you'll have about 1,000 points of buyers, right? Roughly 1,000 points of buyers stuck up above. So that makes it easy to structure in your brain. How do I make decisions? I make decisions like this, okay? I make it as I need the structure to build, right? I need the structure to build, and I need this higher time frame behind my decision making, which is exactly what you had over here. Okay, so then we have to bring it to our time frame, down to our time frame, right? So for our time frame, what do I need? There's almost no one. There's only one person in this room that would use bigger than 50-point stop, right? So if I'm trading yesterday, right? First, let's go to Asia and build the whole day from that sequence, and then tie it to emotion. Okay. So I came to Sunday night. And the first thing I said was, I found the first 5 minutes, it's roughly here, and I put a line underneath it. We pierced underneath it for a second over here at 17, right? So that was step one. We have to hold underneath. Step two is, what do I want on the turn? So these were too fast to get. This is in the first minute, and then this is the first 5 minutes. So I go, okay, white bar up. That's an algo that's within my discretion to take, right? Enter, stop at the low, and that's right at the 25,700. It's a round number, makes sense. That bar has to hold. Then I have over here a green bar with a blue square up in Asia. They're harder to get in Asia. That's near midnight, okay? That is stack number two. If I can get that entry and I can get lucky and have that one entry hold, right? What is this? 25,724, first hour POC from Asia, okay? So I'm like, oh, I get green bar, blue square over the POC. Now I impulse move up. I clear my consolidation flag. So going back to Adam-esque discussion, flagpole, flag, right? There's my flag, my banner. Impulse move, push down. This is right at midnight. Green bar, orange, followed by green bar, blue square, which is my strongest algo that I have in my inventory. Okay, so this makes sense to stack. If you're going for the stack, which I was, and I do it, this is the first stack I've pulled off this year where I really stacked the trade. That is my trade, right? I want that trade to go. I want that to hold. So I pull up my stops, right, a little bit behind here, and I go, please hold, right? And then I go, I need a push into the US Open, and then I need the US Open to hold. At the US Open 836, I get this right here, and then it's just all on faith. We're going to hold and go, but it's all on faith with the stop in place, right? Now, I've done that before and gotten stopped, right? But that's how you execute. That's exactly how you execute a stop. You had three. That's exactly how you execute a stack. You had three elements, four elements working all at once. Underlying element, the biggest driver to the downside has, at least hypothetically from the news flow, been eliminated. Stack number two, I had evidence from a prior date that I showed you on Twitter just a couple minutes ago, right? If we gap, the strongest indication of a gap and go will be that we hold the 5-minute low. I had that. Next, down to my process. How do I enter? I need a green bar or a variant thereof to enter the trade, and I need that 5-minute low to hold. And then I go into my stacking process, which I really haven't shared with anybody, but that's pretty much what it looks like. The swing has to hold off of each entry, or I can't build up the contract size, right? I'm at constant risk. And even with that, overnight, I had risk of an illiquid move down that my stops would get run. And that's an inherent risk when you're putting on size and holding overnight for that push, right? And then you need a little luck. Luck is the last element, right? I need no news to come out that would cause a 100-point sweep, right? That would have taken me out of my position. It didn't happen, right? So one of the people I was speaking to yesterday said, well, you got lucky. And I said, and I'll agree with him. I did get lucky, right? What was the luck? No news came out that would cause a 100-point sweep and then a continuation in the direction of, right? That was the luck part. But the rest of it was a skill part. What was the skill? I spent time. I asked AI, how did I get those dates, right? Did I go through and search date by date? No, I went and asked on Grok, what were the last 5 gap ups, a greater than 1% when the market was trading at all-time highs. And it gave me those dates, right? So then I had context, right? I don't want to know the gap up from market lows. I don't want to know the gap up when the market was down more than 5%. I want to know, what does the market behave like when we gap up from when we gap up at an all-time high, and what does it look like? So one was a gap. It got underneath the first hour POC and it completely rolled over and filled the gap and then failed the gap and rolled down. Okay. That was about a month ago. Okay. So, and look, one came down to a half gap and then recovered the first hour POC and ran. The next one, right, was it opened, it held the 5-minute low and it trended up all day long. Okay. And I said, that's the model I need. I need this thing to gap up, hold the 5-minute low, and run all day long. And that's what I got. Now, did I know that's what I would have? Absolutely not, right? It could have stopped at any point. I could have pointed at multiple places in this thing where we could have or should have failed. Let me show you where I could have gotten shaken out of this trade. First of all of this looked pretty bearish, and the green bars down did not help, right? The white bars with the green squares. I thought I was going to get stopped. Number one. Okay. Number two, orange bar, blue square down. That looks pretty damn bearish, right? And I could have dumped it. Not only did it look pretty bearish, but it rotates down almost 40 points to the downside before continuing. That's at London, right? Next place that it could look bearish, white square, white bar down at 7:30. I was like, well, shit, maybe it's going to come back and stop me out, right? 8:31, green bar, white square, rotation from 28.64 to 25.795. So I did this all in my cash account. No top step, no apex. I don't want to blow those up. I don't want to blow up my cash account either, but I can size correctly for a stack in my cash account. Okay. And I'm like, well, I guess that's not going to work out. And it held. That's it. That was my entire thing. I just basically had to ignore all my short signals, right, to survive that trade. And then during the day, I was looking for longs if it would set up, but it really wasn't. This was the only thing I saw that looked exceptional to the long side. We were hitting higher lows, and realistically, if I had taken my shorts yesterday, I had an okay day, right? This is as close as it got to getting difficult on the short side, but I'm not going to trade against a large position, and I certainly don't want to short all-time highs, right? I want to look for the longs on the upside, and had I held that position, I'd still be doing okay right now. Had I held that position, I would still be doing okay right now. Okay, so that's how you stack, number one. Number two, it always comes back to, and for me, this is really important with my ADD because I get impulsive. I have an idea, right? Let's go with this. I have an idea and I'm going to load this trade, right? And let me show you where that backfires for me because I'm intimately familiar with it. I'm going to help you all out. I strongly believe in my idea. I know this can work. Let me show you where I could have gotten completely blown up. I strongly believe we're going to go higher and go up 700 points from here, right? Or from here. So I think we have another, this is only 100 and some odd points, right? I start going long up here without waiting for my signal, and I would have gotten blown out on all of this because I can't start a large position with 50 points of stop. It just, the mathematics don't work on that. But what I've done in the past is I've gone, oh, we're going to go up. We're going to hold that 1 minute low, and I'm not going to wait for my signal to get the trade, right? Or the other side of this is I've got the position. I've got it loaded up. I've got very little risk on the trade, right? I've been able to stack. Oh, I've gotten a short signal, and I get so involved in that short signal that I ignore my larger thesis. So I've got to write it down, and I've got to accept that if I get stopped out, that's the okay part of the trade. It is okay because you make so much money when you get one of these, right? That you can have actually a 20% win rate and still crush it, right? Because your 20% win rate is, the losses are 18 points, right? Because you're on process. But if you do it like, oh, I'm just buying, oh, I'm just buying, oh, I'm just buying, you get blown out, and then you go, damn, I had the read and I didn't make any money. Okay, so that's the first step. Now let's go to making money. Okay, so it is a slow grinder. You are going to want to look for, today in particular, your 1 minute bars that exhaust. Okay, so if you look this morning, prior to that jump, whatever happened at 8 o'clock, prior, this was your biggest breakout bar right there. I'm pretty sure that was the biggest breakout bar of the whole overnight. Let me go back to make sure that I'm not wrong on that. Yeah, it didn't get touched all night long. Okay, so that occurred at 6:15, right? So there's two things that I want to say at 6:15. I don't want to close below here. If I close below here, I'm below my biggest buyer. If you look, in addition to that, prior to that, this guy right here, these guys are almost tied, but it's this guy. So it comes down to a fight. It's this guy, right? So watch what happens when we get underneath him, right? It's this guy. And then it's this guy right here. pretty sure if we go back, again, I don't remember exactly, it's one more. This guy's really a seller. It shows up as green, but he's really a seller. Right here. Okay, so notice what's happened here, right? I want to go back to make sure I'm not incorrect on the on that, but I'm pretty sure I'm right on that one. And then over here at 310, you had this guy right here. So now look at the math, or the structure, excuse me. Biggest seller, which really was a buyer because of the way that bar is formed, but it closed below the bar closed below some point. It made the volume think it was a negative volume instead of positive volume. So anyway, that was an up bar. That's your biggest buyer, right? Second. Okay. So there's your, what I would consider your biggest seller, and he got reversed, or your buyer. You lost your buyer, you recovered your buyer, you backside tested, and there's your higher arrow, which means you had another setup there within the 1 minute algo time frame, right? So then you came over there, and then if you look what it's going to target, right? You came over here, now it's going to target back over here at these apexes, right? So it comes up. Okay. Here, this guy's a seller as far as I'm concerned. And if you look, what you wanted to happen once you get past this seller, right? So see how you got this orthodox bar above? You don't want to close back below him. Okay, now look. You get orthodox close above. I'm going to go slow. Orthodox close above. Failure to get orthodox close below, but you do get orthodox close below this buyer, which means this is now resistance, right? So you have two competing processes. You had a seller here. You got above the seller, and he did not immediately respond because he allowed you to trade all the way through the bar and get underneath. Additionally, you got a strong buyer, and we closed underneath this buyer. So you can tell by the conviction of the trader, because we don't know who that is, and how they behaved. This buyer, this seller, was not very convicted to keep buying, right? Whatever he was, buyer, seller, doesn't matter. But this guy, this volume placeholder, right, was convicted. Why? Because we closed underneath him or her, backside tested, and they enforced it. Therefore, I know that this guy is the better trader for me than this guy. So now, if I get above this guy with an orthodox close above, doesn't even have to be a big bar. Orthodox close above, right there. I now want that bar to hold, right? This little extension area to hold. Now look to the right. Okay, so that piece of information gives us a lot, tells us a lot, okay? When we see a buyer or a seller and they get backside tested, okay, and they enforce it, and then they lose, they have more incentive to push the trade the other way, okay? That's market makers testing liquidity, right? If you have high volume, those are liquidity markers. Liquidity markers get tested, they hold, and they get above. There's a whole world of traders just trading off that stuff, right? Next, as we're going through, this guy over here, this guy right here, now became my biggest buyer, 716. This guy right here. Buyer, seller, doesn't matter. Let's call him liquidity. He now becomes my biggest liquidity. Right there. Okay. We now get an orthodox close underneath him. Right there. We backside test them. Right there. We push down. We now orthodox close above, and we push. Right. And this guy obviously got screwed with this volume push right here, whatever that was at 8 o'clock. He got nailed with that push, and that's that. That's how you use the 1 minute to navigate your way through. And then if you look at all that, what you want to do is go, okay, well, what did that look like on the 24 tick? And what all of that looked like on the 24 tick for you and me, right, was this guy right here on the breakout. And if I copy that chart onto the number 12, F5, chart drawing, comma, if I look earlier, see all those boxes I drew in the middle of the night? So over here, this is going to be my breakout, right? And if you look at my breakout, this is 619. And what 619 looked like on your 24 tick was green bar, blue square up. That's what broke it out. So it doesn't always match from 1 minute to 24 tick. Like I would usually say, don't bother taking that trade, right? That's what I would normally say, right? I would say, don't bother taking that trade. And where all that started, right, is remember over here at 310, go back to 310. And then I'm going to cut it off because everyone knows what to do from here. Okay, here's 310, right? There's my biggest buyer, right? And what you would have said there, right, turns up as the seller, but I think it's a buyer. Whatever, doesn't matter. Either way, what I would have said there is once you get you lost this guy, right? I'm going to call him a buyer. You lost him. Get above him and go. And what did it look like when we got above him? Green bar, blue square. There's your backside test. Orange square, orange square up. And it took a bit, but it finally took off and went. And that's what that turn looked like. Okay, and if you look on that 1 minute, we can range quite a bit. We can range quite a bit, and it takes some time to understand how to merge that 1 minute to that 24 tick, but that's how it works. Okay, and I don't advocate anybody outright buying or outright shorting. Based on that, it takes time to merge those two pieces together, right? So now, this morning, right, I know in order to be bearish, if you said, Simon, what would make you bearish? I would say, get me below this guy right here, plus this 25,990. That's my, that is my first hour Asia POC is where that comes from, right there at 1500 to 1600, right? Excuse me, 1700. Apologies, 1700. That's my end of my first hour right there, and that is my POC, 25,990. So between 25 and 990, and so step one would be 26,011, right? I put a line there, 26,011. Color red, and we'll put it line style. Hell, I need a way to remember it. Dashed. Okay, I got to get below that 26,011, right? Then I got to get below 25,990. That's my first hour point of control. And then 25,970 last hour POC, right? These three have to go. That'll become 26,011 to 25,970 is your support resistance. And that is how I would run. That is how I would run that trade, right? And that is it. I don't have anything else to add to it. I expect it to be an extremely slow, grindy, boring day. Okay? Why? Because history tells me when we have a slow overnight market, right? Although we expanded the range in the hour prior to the open and the day before Fed, there's a lot of squaring, and I don't want to get caught in the chop that's involved in the squaring. I'll let the 1 minute algo run I don't know how it runs the day before, but I'm going to assume it's going to do the same thing it always does. It performs pretty well in a buyer dominated market. I do have to say this about the 1 minute trader. When VIX jumps above 25, it's going to struggle. Okay. When you backtest it in April and early May, that's where it loses money. The 1 minute trader has to be flipped to a 5 minute trader in April, and we will have that done. But that's where it loses money. I promise you, that's where it loses money. Okay, so that is it. That is what we did. Anyone have any questions about that? And then follow process. If you will let your process, the people who are going to struggle the most in here are the ones who are going to interfere with their process over and over and over again and not let it play out. Why? Same thing that's true for me. You're going to outguess the algo. You're going to trying to outguess an algo that only has a 54% win rate the majority of the time. And your guess rate is probably about 50%, and it's going to smoke you over time. Okay? Just how it is. It's just going to smoke you over time. Okay? It's not something I wish for you or hope for you. It's just you got to let the odds play out. And they're not overwhelming odds where you can go, oh, this makes money 80% of the time. I can guess which one's going to work and which one's not going to work. It's a 50-50, right? Just over 50, and you have to let the RR extend. If you're going to try and manage out that RR, you're going to screw your P&L. That's how the thing works. So now here's your biggest seller right here. On the one, we got to get above them. If you think that 24.41, so if you look, this guy's what the guy I want to test right here, the 26.028, right? You've got a green bar up. And again, we have consumer confidence at 9 a.m. and it's still the first 15 minutes. So I'm not in a rush at all, right? So I'm pretty sure Nvidia's flying. Let me look where it's trading. Oh, not as much as I thought. 194, but I'm pretty sure it's going to take out that high. Not right now, Brian. If you ask me after 10:30, I can. But if you look, the bars in red are sellers. The bars that aren't red, the bar's red. I don't know if we have that on this chart. Oh, here, let me help you. I see why you're confused. Here, let me help you fix this real quick. Okay. Go to chart. Go to chart settings. Excuse me. Go chart, graphic settings chart. Go to colors and widths. Find candlestick down outline. Go color, red. Okay. And you can make it wider if you want. I'll go to, hit OK. Now you know which bars are down and which ones are up. That's it. That's not perfect, but it's close. Okay, and then probably the most important thing for me today, is to do less, right? So it's important. I've been working on this a lot with my personal ADD issues, right? I will feel compelled to be more intense to get the blood flowing in my brain. It's a natural thing if you have ADD. The only way you can do that on a day like today, because you're not going to get rewarded from the market, right? It's going to make you be patient for your setups. So if you have any sort of dyslexia or ADD, you're going to want to click to get that fix, right? If you know that's true, go ahead and bind yourself now from taking a trade, okay, and just wait for a faster day. Or have a plan that goes, these are the trades I'm going to take, right? These are the trades I'm going to take if I decide to trade. This is what I'm going to do, okay? Because otherwise, and that's where, Ed's pointed out for a while, and I've worked really hard on it, the responsiveness to when we go straight down and straight up. And I'm pretty sure that's a response for me trying to gain intensity from the market. And so I have to counter that by going, okay, this is totally fine, and I'll just wait for it. And what really helps me with that is the trader assist, right? The trader assist makes it glaringly clear that I'm wrong on the intensity. The intensity does not improve my trading. It doesn't make my trading any better, right? And also the guessing doesn't make my trading any better. And I'm going to tell you right now, on trend days up, that slow grind is where that 1 minute trader does the best. There will be a version that only kicks out over the 200. The other problem when we're in April and May, I think we need to switch to a 400 period moving average as the filter, as opposed to a 200. We simply crisscross that 200 too much in a well, that was like a 60 VIX, right? We simply crisscross too much in that period of time. So there'll continue to be evolutions and filters on that to fix it. But that's where it loses its money, with 200 as the filter. So what we'll do is build a ultra high volatility model, for lack of a better term, and the filter will become a 400 or a 600 period moving average. And then what you want is you only want to trade long over the 400 or the 600, and you want to turn it off below there when all four channels are underneath, right? And you probably also want to switch to a 5-minute bar. We already know that's true. We already know that's true for a fact, so we don't have to do it. See how they can't get over the seller? They're trying. This is your big seller right here. They're trying, right? This is the start of trying, and they're pushing, 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 pushing in a very slow fashion. Okay, and if they get over, they're going to come back and retest the high. There's nothing for me to do here, right? This is just grinding through the range. Okay, so now he's trying to get above. If they get an orthodox close above, unfortunately the bar is really big, right? That bar covers 30 points in a slow and generally slow environment. So it makes it harder to take that trade, right? So we want to see a backside test and come off from an algo. So there's double white bars up. Bill would normally say, hey, double wide up, you get underneath these guys and it's going to go lower. And I totally would agree with that, right? Why? Because those are your buyers getting stuck right there, right? What are they trying to do? This guy's probably going, I got to cover, I sold, I got to get out, right? And that's exactly what's happening. And you'll see they put the point of control right on the pre-market IB of that 1 minute chart on that bar. And then the other important marker today is going to be the first hour POC, and we'll just obviously wait for that. But I have zero desires to force my hand in any of this. And you can tell it's slow just from looking at it. Look, can you count the number of trades that are going off almost in NASDAQ? That means it's slow. So now in order to go lower, we need to regain this guy. But not only do we have to regain this guy, because what if we lose this guy, right? What are you going to do? You're going to slam into this guy. So you're going to have to get under both these guys now to go lower, is the answer to that question. And that 26.11 and a quarter. And again, 26,200 was roughly my target. I thought we'd get it in one day, but we were so slow we couldn't get it. Any questions? Watch your P&L, watch your capital. You do not have to make money today to make money this month. That's just a fact. You do not have to make money today and tomorrow to make money this month. A lot of money, right? You do have to be selective in where you trade. So what my primary trader will be that 1 minute trade today. And then I'll go from there. It made 700 and some odd dollars yesterday. It made on Friday 800. It made on Thursday 600. It lost on Wednesday 200. And then Monday and Tuesday were profitable, but I don't remember what the numbers were. And it will fail in its current configuration if VIX is over probably 25. And the problem is where it lost money is the 200 didn't save it. That's why I know we had to go to a 400 or 600 period moving average on that in that particular environment if we get it again. Retesting Globex high. We have not taken out IB high yet, which is at 26094. And I got nothing on the books. Zip for today. And by the way, you don't have an orthodox close above that seller, so technically he's still winning. And see how we're bouncing off a very little level? Retail traders completely in control, no institutional traders. Because we don't trade like that. Institutional traders don't go, oh, I wonder what the pre-market IB low was. Let me load up. They just don't do it. They don't care. White bar, red squared down. Thank you, Bill. Again, NVIDIA is probably going to be, everyone's waiting for the U.S. to say we're taking a 10% stake in this thing, right? ESCon negative on the day. Notice that we came off right off our biggest seller. Like over here. Excuse me. Our biggest buyer right there, right off the top of them at 29. Boom. That was, they pushed in with white bar, green square into our biggest buyer. He defended and pushed. Now we have econ in 4 minutes. Just keep it nice and simple. And that paying 1 bar or 2 minute bar of 50 points, right? 32 to 88. And people are like over there going, oh, I got it. And then they're like, I got the short. And then bam, just crushed 50 in 2 minutes. Like it took you almost 13, 14 minutes to get down, 2 minutes to take away. Don't forget in Top Step if you're in Top Step, use your preset limits, right, per contract to make sure you don't get kiboshed. You just go to settings and you can put lock risk settings per day, or you can do to OCO brackets, right? So if you can take risk, right? So you say, what's my maximum risk I want to take? $500, right? And my profit, just so I have something out there, right? It's an OCO. I set to 1,000, right? Automatically apply to new brackets, save changes. Okay, so now every time I put an order in, right? So you can set it to wherever you want, right? It's right over here. Go to your settings. It's like this. How do I do this? This is an old one. It looks just like this. It looks like this, this. That's an old Apex that I was trying to set up on the, not Apex, but I was trying to link that. But you just go to your settings and his position risk profit bracket, and then set your own stops orders within that. It leaves you from being naked on anything. Okay, I'll fix it. I'll show you later, Jason. That's fine. I don't know why it doesn't show. Maybe I'm just having that screen. I'll show it later. Okay, got it. You just go to that settings bar, see where the settings are, and it says position risk profit bracket, and set it there. Do you see it? There's your econ. Do we go trend up now, or do we take profits? Who knows? Who knows? And choppity chop chop chop. We'll see if it can go anywhere. You do not want to take a big loss on a day like today, guys. I'm just telling you. You want to stay nice and tiny. You can see it's already chopping. There's no motivator up or down. Again, this guy's got to defend. You don't want underneath him. It's small ball now. We're just in such a tight range. Right? This guy's going to try to defend. You get underneath him. Right? He's the one who pushed. And then you can come in and test these levels down here. I don't have anything else to add substantially to that. And that point it controls all the way up at 26.076. We're not down to the fourth channel or third channel or anything like that. On the Keltners, I just got nothing. Other than buyers are in overall control and patience. So the market's already advertised 9 o'clock. Chop, 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 chop. Right? It's already advertising that it's this ridiculousness. Right? Just give it time. And if it doesn't pan out, just go, I can come back mañana or Thursday. And if you look at your Twitter feed, if you follow a bunch of traders like I do, you will see that a lot. So we are in since 9 o'clock, 10 minutes in a 20-point range. Be patient. It's going to be the same situation. You're going to pack in people that want to short, right? They're going to build up, build up, build up, have to cover, push, back to chop. I don't know. I know I used to want to short these and go, it can't keep going up. But yeah. We had a few more minutes, but I'm not highly inclined to do anything here. ES positive, NQ barely positive. It's the definition of nothing to do. I have a whopping $86.60 on my P&L. But that does pay for Whataburger today, so you're not Texan. You don't know what that is, probably. Or Floridian. Or Southern. Do y'all have Whataburgers, Brian? I don't think y'all do. Totally unhealthy, but delicious. That hurricane coming into Jamaica, man, I feel bad for those people. They're going to get blasted. It's going to be pretty horrible. That's a very poor island, too. Their infrastructure won't survive that, I don't think. 200 on 150 to wind gust to 225. And it's just monstrous. You can see the contract size is falling off there. Like we're below 1,000 contracts per bar, per 1 minute bar. That's like really small for this time of day. And right into VWAP. So I probably realistically have like 10 more minutes before I start getting impatient. I'll just take a break and Took a look underneath, tried to push, volume was lower, peak back above. Now they're going to have the first hour IB high, low stat to contend with. I'm not saying that's what you should have traded at all, but you can see here, this is the biggest push down in that consolidation. On the 24 tick, they pushed right there. If they can't get underneath that guy, he holds. That's literally all I'm arguing, right? Of course, if the range suddenly expands or volume suddenly comes in, that changes, right? That's how it is. Closed underneath them. Now you got to get over the 26.071 to squeeze. And now you're into the biggest volume bar. They're trying to get underneath that biggest volume bar, etc., etc., etc. Right? That star down stuff has been working over here. Have to get back above VWAP. We're just doing that VWAP dance. Now it looks like it's going to stop. I think on that's the first stop of the day. No, it's all right. That's good. That's a test of the RTH low and the first hour low. There's your first hour low, so break. ES is still positive on the day, so I wouldn't consider that bearish. Could be, but I don't think it is. That satisfies the IB stat too. White square, yellow dot down. And I guess we'll see if they can drag it back up or not. Back above first hour low. Natural target is back to the 26063. I mean, people aren't trading like this, right? It's back to VWAP 054, then 063, then 080, then 094. That's, you know, that's what balance would look like. Now, will it do it? No idea. We are long on the 1 minute. And, oh, that's weird. Okay. There we go. Scale number 1 is up there at 26,049.50. Again, I'll take the loss if it's a loss. I'll take the win if it's a win. I will not mess around with that 1 minute trader because my instincts betray me in this particular situation. The reason they betray me is because this thing performs very well in slow, grindy markets. I'm just going to have to accept that some days will be down days on this thing. And that's just all there is to it. But it generally does a good job in this environment. I think it got the first scale. Yeah, scale 1 done, yes. And again, I could guess at it and go, oh, that's all I want, or what have you. And that's great if you want to do it. It's a trader assist. I think the trailer stopped on that. They're about to. Not quite. Probably should have done it. Yep. So down 147, which is fine. Not fine, but it is what it is. Hey guys, everyone hear me? I do get slipped on those other 10 accounts. There's no way you can't in micros. Especially when it's slow like this and they just step away when they see those programs come in. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm not worried about it. I'm just saying I do get slipped. There's no question about it. It's not fun, but it happens. But you still should have gotten your scales out on that, even with the slippage. Is that correct, Jason and Brian? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right, but not all four channels are below the 200. Jason. And that's the key. And it's not off the 1 minute, it's off the 24 tick. Yeah, it's the 24 tick, all have to be below the 200. Now, if you want to put it off below the 200, that 200 on the 1 minute, you're welcome to do so. It's not as effective. Like that's a very, very short time frame on that chart. It's working off the 24 tick. We're pushing right into that 26011. This is a very logical place to get a response. That is the point of control of the first hour of Asia. And there's your red square. You'll see this repeating into that point of control. Red square, you'll see those squares push right into that and get a response out of that. And then the logical rotation is back to 049. Okay, that pattern is repeating. The trough would be back into first hour low, right? Now you'd want that low, that 26011 to hold, retest high by the end of the day. You probably want to point of control back in, but that would make sense. Did that make sense how I described that? So I don't have a way of telling you to trade that, right? If I see red square, white bar in into that 26011, I'm taking it long. Okay, but I know that if the next bar prints, I'm probably stopped. Okay, and that's going to be sensitive to where we are in the rotation. That same trade will not work. That same trade would not work necessarily in a down market, right? But that was right into the 200 period on the 24, right? Right into the 200 on the 24. White bar, red square, I know that's a volume expansion into that first hour Asia point of control. And I would expect a response out of that. I don't have a way of communicating every single setup that's there. And the problem with it is, if it's not in your trade plan, you should simply consider it for your trade plan, right? I pointed out earlier, we got it up here. Oh, and we also had the first hour POC, by the way, which we probably slipped below. So this is your target back up, and then we need to get over it to break out. Sorry, I should have marked it off right at 9:30. Now it's this. So that's your target up. I usually make it outsized to remember it. So now you're trying to hit that, and above that is your breakout again. And you will see we danced along that once we got underneath, couldn't get back above. So there's 930 underneath. That's highly likely to get tested. Usually only on trend days down do we not retest that. This certainly doesn't look like a trend day down to me. So each of these are pretty important POCs for some reason that I marked them off, right? So just FYI on that. And again, if you don't like how it's trading or it's too slow, you have every prerogative to go, I'm turning this thing off, right? I'm not that thing. I'll run them all day because for me, I have to know that I can survive the curve and be okay, right? It's important to me. And if I can't, I just shouldn't run it because I found that when I guess at it, and if I can't tolerate the down day, I can't tolerate the up day either because I'm just going to keep guessing at it. I can't be scared. That should be in an account where you are not scared to let it stop you out, right? It just should. Yeah, and here's where you get um, tripped up, right, or goofy footed, Brian. Like yesterday, you interfered with it a little bit, and it cost you, right? It cost you from a winning day to a losing day. And now here's where people really get screwed. Let's say today's down. Now you get reinforced both ways, right? Damn, I screwed with it on the good day and lost out. Now I didn't mess with it on the day I should have messed with it. And now you're forever in this perpetual cycle of mess with it, don't mess with it, mess with it, don't mess with it. And it sucks. The way Ed riffed off of that realization after I came up with the original idea for the 1 hour points of control was awesome, Ed. That was just fantastic insight on your end. Really appreciate it. If we can get those last extensions, won't be too ugly. Won't be too ugly. Okay, I'm gonna go make myself a cup of coffee, and I'll be back in just a little bit.